All right, now we are gonna start our section. So this is the how to code Python in one line series. This is the beginner section. My name is Karen. I'm the moderator for this section, and I am here along with the co-organizer, Poojita. So Poojita, it's your turn.
Hi, everyone. This is Poojita Garg. I am a research associate at Georgia Tech and IIT Roper. I'm volunteer at Women Who Code Python here, and I'll be your instructor for today's session. You can get in touch with me at Twitter at @Poojita Garg. Okay, so let's dive into our today's agenda. So first of all, we'll begin with introduction to one-line coding. And then we'll go on to the benefits of one-line coding. Then we'll move forward to our very exciting today's live coding session on Colab. And lastly, we'll do a Q&A session. Okay, let's start. So in this coding world, right, imagine yourself reading your coding project in 10 months. It will be very hard for all of us. So clarity of coding logic and readability is the priority, although it doesn't happen often, right? So the more lines of code in a script, the harder it is to understand and to debug, obviously. So the more care you have to take, right, while writing your code. So we have one-line coding to save us, right? So one or minimal lines of coding to perform the tedious tasks of functions, though keeping the logic behind it exactly the same. So unlike other programming languages, one-line coding is quite possible and very easy to do in Python. So let's see the several benefits of one-line coding. It makes it easier to read the code. It makes it easier to maintain and debug our code. It also reduces the local memory required while coding and reduces the complexity, along with reducing the execution time, which will go in a little depth when we'll start our collab session for today. Also, it reduces the confusion, especially when the script is co-developed with others. So in many cases, we kind of try to do like we have different developers at the same project. So it is obviously easier if we don't have that much confusions in our code, right? Okay, so for just giving you a hint of example here, let us take a task, right? Let us say that we have to read this file here, which is this input, and we have to do two functions, and we have to convert all the uppercase letters to lowercase. And secondly, convert all the B's into all P's, right? So we need to convert this input into this output, okay? Let's see how we'll do it in a multi-line code. So to perform the tasks, we have this, multi-line code just as an example. It has all the loops and the file opening, closing statements, right? Okay, it's a bit tedious, right? It's like doing just the two tasks and just using so many lines, right? Okay, let's see the power of one-line coding here. We are performing exactly the same task, but just writing in one line, right? The whole logic is in one line and just the other one for the opening, closing. And it will perform exactly the same input, same output from the same input, right? I guess that's a bit of a warm up for all of you to like dive into one-liner Python. And I think we're all ready to let's code, right? Let's go to our collab session. Stephanie, please put down the link. Yeah, okay, Karen. So you can go to the collab session, collab link, which has been posted down. Yes. Okay, in the chat, right? Okay, yeah. Please let us know with a B or a thumbs up if you have any doubts. Let us know with a P, and if you are all set to go on the collab session, please let us know with a B or a thumbs up. Okay, just a second. Is one line coding for beginners? No, one line coding is a very powerful, kind of a tool. You can, not exactly a tool, but a powerful way, and it will help everybody, like from starting from beginners and going to more advanced coding problems, solving coding problems using more advanced functions. Okay, so okay, I guess all I said, let's start with our coding session. Okay, so first thing first, what you can do is you can go to the file here and save a copy of the link in your drive so that you can independently practice the examples which I mentioned, later on at your own comfort as well. So just go to file, go to save a copy in drive like I have done, like copy that will come like copy of this, and then you are good to go. Okay. Okay, so let's start with Zen of Python. I hope many of you would know that a Pythoner named Tim Peters once wrote 19 principles stating how one can write beautiful and clean code with Python. So came to be known as the Zen of Python. The guidelines motivate programmers to write simple, readable, and clean code. So being a developer, writing code and making it run is not the only job we have, right? So Python is known for its readability and simplicity. So writing clean and readable code is an art and which is appreciated by other programmers and let them understand every bit of your code, right? So you can kind of go through the Zen of Python by importing this. So writing this statement, running it, you will get all the 19 principles of Zen of Python, right? So here for this series, the most important principles for our concern here are the first one, that is beautiful is better than ugly. Definitely when we are writing very less minimal code to perform the same task, our whole coding document will look beautiful. The secondly is that readability counts. Definitely when we are using less lines and, so our code will be more readable, right? Okay. So let's start. So like I mentioned earlier that, one-liner Pythons reduce the execution time. So let's, prove it by a time it function. So time it is a library which will act, which is a simple way to, measure the execution time of small bits of Python code. So what we'll do is, for an example, let us take, let us populate a 2D array, and let's say of 99 by 99 with all zeros, like just as an example, and we will find out the execution time. So the first thing which we'll do is that import the timeit module by import timeit. And this is the way we are going to use timeit for our multi-line code. So we'll kind of convert the code snippet into string and we'll just initialize it into a variable. And later, like we'll call the timeit function from the timeit module with the parameter as our coding snippet. So if you run it, I already did that. So it will cost you like 830 seconds of execution time. Okay. Let's see if we do it in one line. So we don't want to care about the how we like implemented the one line here, but mostly about how the execution time is changed, right? So in this one line code, when we are using it, it is only giving us 388 seconds of the execution time. That means it almost reduced it to half, even less than that, right? So I think that will save ton of your time when the coding snippet is not just several lines, but like hundreds of lines of code, right? Running the whole document will save you a bunch of time there. Okay, so on that note, I think we should just dive right into our very first example, that is swapping of two numbers. So swapping of two numbers is like mainly comes in many of our coding examples, right? We generally want to swap two values of two variables, right? So let's see how the multi-line code of it is. So if you recall that, swapping of two numbers require a temporary variable. So which is a temporary variable like C in this case, right? So we need it as like, we need to kind of initialize the value of one parameter into a temporary variable, and then swap the other two values, and then use that temporary variable to give the value to the second parameter, right? So let's run it and see what the result is. Okay, so we started with A as 4, B as 5, and later on when we did this 3 lines of swapping code, and we came out to be A as 5 and B as 4. I guess that's cool, right? That's how swapping works. Let's see how we can do it in one line, okay? So we'll start again with A as 4, B as 5, and yes, here's a one line, which is A comma B is equal to B comma A. So with this piece of code, we can exactly swap without using any temporary variable. Let's run it and let's see what result do we get. Okay, so we get the exactly same result. Now A is 5 and our B is 4 here. So, but we are using one line, that's A comma B is equal to B comma A. I hope that's clear. Let's move on to the next example. And here we have the multiple variable assignment. So obviously, when we are working in for any problem in Python, we obviously don't, kind of use only a single variable. We use multiple variables, and there are many times we need to initialize them all at once. So this is the, the conventional way which we mostly follow, that, okay, if we have to initialize A as 4, B as 4.5, C as a string saying hello, and this is how we'll do it in different lines, right? And then if we print all of them, we'll get like what A, B, and C values are. But there's another way to do it. We can kind of initialize A, B, C, all with, even with different data types all at once. So it's like A comma B comma C is equal to all the values of 4 comma 4.5 comma string. So all these will be, respectively initialized to the respective, variables according to their positions. So if we run this statement, we'll get exactly the same result. So that's 4, 4.5, and hello. Okay, so before we practice, just give me a B in the chat if everything's going good and everyone is following great, and P, or just show the questions in the chat if there's any doubts. Okay. Great. Okay, I think we are good to go. Good to move ahead. Okay, so let's practice the two things which we learned right now with the example. Okay, let's say that we want to assign two variables, two string types, which is hello and world, to two variables v1 and v2, and then we just need to kind of swap the values of v1 and v2. Okay, so let's write, let's perform these two tasks with one line code. So just feel free to help me in coding and just write any guesses you have. Yes, okay, so someone has this. Okay, v1. Yes, that's great. Okay, yeah, I think Ashfaq, yeah, that's great. So we are exactly going to do this, that for multiple variable assignment, we are going to use it for in the same line like v1 comma v2, and then just assign the variables. So say we are assigning hello and world. Okay, great. So I guess half the task is done. The second half is still left though. We need to swap the values. So if anyone has any guesses about how to write that statement. Okay, so let's do that. So that's v1 comma v2. We need to swap the values. So it's v2 comma v1 now. So it's like the values of v2 will go into v1 and the values of v1 will go into v2. Let's print and let's see what happens. Okay, so yeah, see, we successfully swap the values and we get world in V1 and hello in V2. Great, guys. Okay. Okay, so let's recall slicing. Now, before going ahead, let's recall slicing because we are going to use it like in our examples ahead. Okay, so what slicing is, it's a very powerful function in Python and we are going to use it many, many times, right? So let's say let's say we have an array like of let's say X is an array, and in the square brackets, if we use start colon stop colon step, right? So the resulting subsequence starts at the index start, so the start is included, and ends at the index stop, and stop is excluded. So it will go till stop, though. So it will print the value at index stop -1. And you can include a third optional parameter, that is step. So that determines which elements are to be carved out. So you could choose to include just every stepth element, right? So for example, the slicing operation of x1 colon 4 colon 1. So used on a variable where x is hello world, the string. So results in ELL. So it will start from 1. That means it will start from E. So a caveat here is that in Python, the array indexes start from 0. So our 1 will not be H, but will be E. So E will be included. It will go till 4. So that's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So it will go till O. That means it will give us the output till L. So ELL. And we are using step as 1. So that means that every subsequent value of the on every subsequent index, we have to use it, right? Okay, so just always remember this one thing that, you know, in Python, strings and lists are indexed from 0. Also, there are like couple of defaults here. Like if we don't use, if we don't include the step argument, so Python will by default assume that it is step size of 1. For example, that if we just mention 1 colon 4, that means it will step for 1. Also, if we don't mention the start index, that it will assume that it has to start from the very beginning, from the 0. And if we don't mention the end index, that it means that it will go till end, it will loop over whole of the string or the array. Okay, let's practice it with a few examples before moving on. Let's say we have a string called eat more fruits, right? Which are very important. So let's see, let's print, S, we have a start of, like, we have not given a start. That means it will use the default, which is starting of the string. It will go till 5, okay? And there's also not a step mentioned. That means the step by default is 1. So we start from the start, we traverse till the 5, so included the 4th one, not the 5th one, and every subsequent element as step index is 1. Okay. Let's try it for, we'll start at index 3 and we'll end at 0. And let's see what we'll get. So I think that's quite evident that if we start from a higher index, how can we go to a lower index while traversing +1, right? So we can't do that. So it's giving us an empty string, okay? Let's go on the next one. Let's start from 4, end at 8, and with a step of 2. So our eat more fruits have now been like the subsequences MR here. So it will start on with the 4th element, that's M here, go till 8, and with a step of 2. Okay. The next example is that it doesn't have any start or stop index. That means that it will take defaults of starting and ending of the string with a -1 of the step. That means it will traverse the string or the array in the reverse direction. Okay, so this is exactly the same string, eat more fruits, but in reverse. Okay, so the last one is very similar to the one here we did here, which returned empty string. So here we are starting from the bigger index going to a lower one, but here we have a step of -1. That I think that's correct, right? That means that we are starting from the higher index going towards the lower. So we are traversing backwards. So that's great with a step where it is a negative step. So now at this time, it is returning something, and you can check that it is exactly what it should be, right? According to the slicing rules. Okay, so someone has a question. Can you tell me why we used S while traversing the list? So S is exactly the string, where we have stored the string. Like that's a variable where we have stored the string. So S is the variable. So we are like slicing this S variable, which contains eat more fruits. I guess that answered the question in the treat. Okay. Okay, so let's dive into another example. That's palindrome check. So I hope everyone knows what a palindrome is. So that's basically a word which is spelled the same back as backwards, right? It is same when spelled forwards and backwards. So that's a palindrome, right? Okay, so multi-line code. So this is an example of a multi-line code for achieving the palindrome check. So this uses some for loops here and an input, and it's just printing that if it is a palindrome, then it's printing as true, and if it's not, then false. So it is using the algorithm used to check palindrome. So I think that's a bit of much of a work right here. Let's see, it's very simple to have a palindrome check using one line. So I think half of the work we already did that. Yeah. So like half of the work we did, like when we used how to traverse a string backwards. So let's, use that knowledge of ours to write a palindrome check example. Feel free to drop, suggestions or the guesses in the chat. Okay, let's begin with, let's, take input from the user, only that which word they want to check as a palindrome. So let's say the string, let's say, let's take S only as variable. Let's say input, okay, enter a word. Now we have to check. So S contains the word now, the word we want to check for palindrome. So I think we need an if condition here. Okay, someone has responded yes in the treat, yes. So yeah, we will use the exact thing here, that S that you just mentioned, right? We will be using it, but we'll not exactly print it, but we'll check it if when we go from the traverse the string forwards, if it's equal to the same when we traverse it backwards. We're going to check it. So we'll use if else there. So we say that if our string S, that's the actual string here, is equal when S spelled backwards, right? So we'll use that thing which we just learned how to kind of traverse the string backwards. So that's there. We'll see that if that's the case, then just print yes, yes, it's palindrome. And if that's not the case, so if that's else, then we'll print, sorry, that's a typo here, print, okay. Print, no, it's not a palindrome, okay? Okay, just let's run and check. Okay, let's enter a word. Yeah, we could, yes, Chetna, we could return that and it will give us a Boolean, like whether it's true or false. And then we can kind of print the Boolean as well, or we can kind of have another print statements for that purpose. We can definitely return that, but it's only in the case if we are making a function. Right now, I'm not making any function, so where we can return it. So I'm using just if else statements. Okay, so let's Let's try level, okay? Let's see if it's a palindrome. Yes, that's a palindrome, okay? Yeah, we knew that. Let's try another word. Let's say my name. Let's check if that's a palindrome or not. Okay, oops, that's not a palindrome, you know? Anyway, so, okay. I guess that's quite great. Everyone understood, right? Just give me a B if that's what everyone got, okay? Great, you guys are awesome, really. Okay, let's move on to our next example. So here we have if else. Okay, so you know, if else is like abundantly used everywhere in like every line of code. So we'll use it in one line. Okay, we'll see how to use it in one line, and that will save like bunch of your time and space. Actually, you know, the writing if else in like 4 lines. It obviously requires minimum of 4 lines when we have just one thing to do in else, right? Let's see how we can use it in just one line. You know, that's a miracle. Let's say, for example, we have to assign this is a myval, like kind of a myval is a variable, and we have to assign it as 24 if this condition, which is 5 less than 2, is true. Otherwise, we have to assign it as 40. So just a very vague and random example, I know that. Let's say if 5 is less than 2, so myval is 24. Else, in else condition, we are saying that, okay, so if that's not the case, myval is 40, okay? So let's see what myval is, you know, if we don't know that much of maths. Okay, yeah. So I think what we like guessed it was right. 5 is not less than 2, so that means that myval will be 40, yeah. Okay. But let's see how we can do it using one line. So again, we have to, you know, print the value of myval. So myval is equal to 24, right? If 5 less than 2, else 40. So the thing you need to you know, keep in mind is that we are not using any colons. We are not using any formatting, which is required in Python when, you know, writing if else conditions. So we're simply using it like in a very intuitive way, where like when we are even saying it in English, we are saying this, that, okay, this is this, if this condition holds, else it is this, right? So this is the format of using if else in one line. So let's print it and let's see if that gives the same result. Yes, it is giving us exactly the same result as the previous one. But right, it's in one line, so it's really fun to do that. Okay, let's practice this. Let's practice this one. And let's practice with a very, you know, common example. You know, we always get marks, right? And we are always worried that if we passed our tests or if we failed. So let's say we have to print pass or fail on marks greater than 30. That means we have passed. And if that's less than 30, then we'll print fail. And we have to use that will require if else, and we have to use it that in only one line. Okay. So anybody, any suggestions before I start typing? Like how to go about it? Oh, Shalini, that's great. That's awesome. We are going to do exactly that. We are going to use exactly what you have guessed. It's right. Yeah. So let's take, you know, the marks as an input from the user. Okay. So let's say marks is equal to input. Please enter marks. Okay. And now we are going to use a mygrade as a variable suggested by Shalini, that let's say mygrade is equal to pass if the marks are greater than 30, else you have to assign mygrade as fail. Okay, let's put some emoticons also. Okay. Okay, Just one simple thing here, that when we are comparing when we are like comparing two integers in a logical statement, we need both of the candidates which we are comparing as of the same data type. So here in input we have to cast it with int, because input by default returns a string. So we have to cast it in int so that we can successfully compare this marks with 30. Okay, so let's print migrate. Okay. Oops, I'm just alt. Okay, let's do that. Okay, let's print marks. Let's say I scored 45. Okay, so I passed this one. Let's say in some tests, it was a horrible test. I scored 20. Oops. Yeah, I failed. Yeah, happens sometimes. Okay. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. I hope that was a fun example, right? Okay, so let's go on to the next one. That's printing the same element many times. Okay, so the multi-line code of it is like, you might have used concatenation of strings. Like, so if I need to print x 5 times in a row, I'm using concatenation of strings here, that I'm using test as a variable, and I'm concatenating x 5 times using the concatenation operator plus, and I'm printing it. Let's see what happens. Okay, so I have x 5 times. Well, let's say I have to print x 200 times. Would it be possible to manually concatenate 200 strings at the same time? I guess that's a lot of work and requires like the whole day, I guess, for me at least. Let's make the job easier, and quite easier actually. So analogous to using plus here for concatenation, we will use star, the multiplication operator, to kind of multiply the string as many times as we require by just one line. So I think that's just a day saver. Okay, let's use that. We have to print x 5 times, so the string x star, that is the multiplication operator, and we are using that here into 5. So like it's x into 5. So let's print it. Let's see. Okay, so it's giving the same results. That's great, right? Let's practice it. Let's practice. Let's say we have to print the @ operator 200 times. So I would definitely opt for the one-liner code here and use like @ *200. Okay, so I got exactly 200 times the @ operator. Yeah, well, that's very great. So that's the power of Python, how concisely you can write the code, having exactly the same logic, and it just saves the day. Okay, let's hop on to the next example to check the existence of a number in a list. Okay, so okay, so we have an array of 5 elements here. Well, 5 elements, and we know that it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It makes it easier to check if 5 is in that list or not, right? But if we have a longer list, a longer database, and we just forgot what all things are there in that particular array, I think for that we need to check if the particular desired value is there in the list or in the array or not. So this is the one multi-line code for that using for loop on I. So we are using I as an index here, and we are checking if our desired number num is equal to, and we are looping over all of the elements in the array with the index as I. And if that's the case, then we're just printing yes, it's present. Okay. Still, that's like a couple of lines, right? Let's make it into one line. So the one line code of it is, let's say our desired number again is 5, and we have the same array as this one here. And let's see, okay, so here we are using if statement here, and we're not using any for here. We are saying that if num, which is a desired number, in. So we're using here the in operator in the if statement in exactly the array, right? So we're using the array here. And if that's the case, then print present. Let's see that what happens. Okay, we have not run this statement. Let's run the multi-line first. Okay, so 5 is present in the array, so it gives us present. Let's now run the one line code. Okay, so 5 is again present in this array, so it's giving us present. So I guess that's like, we are eliminating the for loop here, and we're just using the if condition. More intuitive, less number of lines, less efforts, right? That's amount of work. Okay, so before hopping on to the practice example, just give me a B if you're following along, great. And okay, will the one-liner work with the array assigned to a variable? Oh yeah, sure, definitely it will work. So let me do that. So as we have already, run the statement. So if AR is the variable, let's try that. Yeah, so it's giving us present also. So that's like, there's no problem in that. We can have the array like initialized in another line and use it in the other one. That's great. Okay. Okay, so let's move on out to our next exciting example, which involves our favorite ice creams. I love ice creams. Okay, so check if your favorite ice cream flavor is present in the list of available ice cream flavors. So let's first of all do the first things first. Let's make a data of what all ice cream flavors are present, like available, and then we'll check if our desired flavor is available or not. Okay, so let me write ice cream flavors is equal to a list, like, let's say, just hop on, just like drop your favorite ice cream flavors, and I'll just write peanut butter cup, I love chocolate, I love mint as well. I love actually all of the ice creams. I just love them. Vanilla. Great. Let's keep it for now. And now let's check, if our favorite ice cream is present, right? So let's take an input for from the user, which ice cream flavor they want to check. Let's say required flavor is equal to input. Please write your desired flavor of ice cream. Okay, now we have to check that whether this required flavor, which is is present in this ice cream flavors or not. So let's use the one line code. If the required flavor in, so here we are using the the name of the array and not exactly the array there. We can do both ways. So okay, so that's the required in the array. Okay, then print yum, let's say, and else print, let's say, not yum. Let's run it. Okay, so desired flavor, let's say Oreo. Okay, so someone said Oreo ice cream, so let's say Oreo. Oh, so sorry, Oreo's not there with that in our ice cream flavors. Let's try again. Let's say chocolate. Oops, I spelled chocolate wrong, that's why. Okay, right. Yes, so chocolates in the stock, right? Um, better, better luck next time, Azia. Okay. Okay, so enough of ice creams. Let's go on to business, right? Let's practice one-liners with some real-world examples, okay? Okay, so first example which I've planned for you today is like, say you work in a human resource department at a large company and need to find all staff members who earn at least $100,000 per year. So your desired output is a list of tuples, each consisting of two values. The first one is the employee's name, and the second is the employee's yearly salary. So you just want the employees who earn at least $100,000 per year. Okay. So this here employees is the employee data you have in your database. So that's quite small for a large human resource company. But okay, let's do that. Like for example, we have Alice and Bob, Carol, Frank, and Eve with us. And so we want a top earners array where we want tuples giving us two values, employee's name and employee's salary. Okay. And we want to check on the salary. So here we have employees dictionary, right? So that's a key and a value pair. So I guess everybody is familiar with dictionaries in Python. So this is the basic dictionary concepts, like we are using the for loop on key value pairs in the items of the dictionary. So that's a basic dictionary statement in Python. And we are using ifs condition on values, right? On the value. So that's the salaries. So we are saying that if val is greater than equal to 100,000, then the top earners array, which we had, so just append it with the key value pair, okay? And later on, we're just printing it. Let's see what it prints. We're hopeful that it prints this, yes. It prints, Alice, who has 100,000, Carol, who's earning this much amount of money yearly, okay. Well, that was quite a multi-line code, right? But by now we have understood the importance of one-line code. So we're kind of trying it to condense these many lines into one line, keeping the logic exactly the same and wanting the same output. So we have the same database here, the employees, we have 5 employees, and this is the one-liner code here. Let me just walk you through the one-liner once. So we have exactly the same name of the array here, top earners, where we want the tuples, desired tuples. And so just one thing which is new here is that because, top earners is an array and not just a single thing. So we are using the square brackets, right, to denote that whatever statement is inside the square brackets will give a result in the form of an array, like in the square brackets, right? So the result after executing this line of code inside the square bracket will give us an array, right? Okay. And yes, Shalini, that's correct. Okay, so we are using KV as a key and value pair for KV in employees.items. The similar thing we did above. If the value is greater than equal to 1,000. So we are printing k comma v for k comma v in employees.items if v is greater than equal to 100,000. So that's a very convenient way to write the whole above, messy code. Let's see, let's print the top earners and let's see if the result is same. Okay, so the result, if you see, is exactly the same. We're getting the tuples with the employees who earn 100,000 more than or equal to $100,000 a year, and it's just less lines. I guess that's wonderful. So before we go on to our next example, let me know if this example was clear or anything needs to be, like should I go through anything again? Just give me a B if everything's great. If not, post any questions, or a P. Okay. Okay, great. Great, everybody. You are awesome. And yeah. Yeah, exactly. I find one-liners to be more intuitive, like the way we speak, we are kind of writing it. Just we need to know the rules of our language, and but it's more intuitive. It's more intuitive in one line. We see the logic exactly the way it is written. Okay. So we are almost at the end of our session today. Um, but last but not the least, they say, example 2, it's again a fun example for you guys. Okay, so this time we are hopping in, web browsers, like in a small internet startup. So imagine you work at a small internet startup that tracks its users' web browsers. So Google Chrome, Firefox, Safari. Please post down which web browser do you prefer most, just for fun. Okay. You store the data in a database. To analyze the data, you load the gathered browser data into a large list of strings, right? But because of a bug in your tracking algorithm, every second string is corrupted, okay? And needs to be replaced with the correct string. So to reproduce the original data, you want to duplicate every other string which is corrupted in the list, right? So if the list has Firefox corrupted, Chrome corrupted, so it should become Firefox, Firefox, Chrome, Chrome. So that means that every corrupted one needs to be replaced by the one before it. Okay. So we have this data as a sample data. We have visitors. So we have every other string. So every second string is corrupted. And the way we can solve it is that we have to use, we have to, like duplicate the one before it into the position of the corrupted one. Okay. So let's see. Here we'll, revise the concept of slicing. Here we'll require the slicing, the concepts, and we will do it in one line. Okay. So before I start typing, let me know if anybody has any guesses in the chat that how we can solve it. So it's very simple. It's, when I'll write it, it's purely a very small piece of code doing all of this above functions which I just described. Just let me know if anybody, has any idea, any guesses. Okay, no issues. Let's start. Once I write it, it will be extremely clear. Okay. So here we have visitors, right? Visitors, let's see, visitors. Okay, someone has given a suggestion. Visitors equals to visitors column 2. Yeah, like somewhat correct, but not exactly, I would say. Okay, let's see how we can do it. So okay, so this is an array. Now we need to basically like on the corrupted values, we need the ones before it, right? So let's see which values are corrupted. Okay, so if we start from index 1, right, because the whole index, the array starts from index 0, so the one of the value present at index 1 is corrupted. Okay, so I'm starting with 1, I am ending at end, so I'm not giving any end, so that means by default it will go till end, and I'm having a step of 2, so every second element starting from 1, index 1 is corrupted. Okay, so I have got all corrupted, the ones corrupted here in visitors 1 colon 2. Now I'm populating them with the ones prior to them. So how will I do that? I'll do that visitors. Okay, and now I'll be using it, the one Runjun mentioned. So it will start from 0. So the one will start from this one, though that's the index 0. So it will start from 0. So I'm not mentioning anything because by default it will take that. I'm not mentioning any end. That means it will go till end of the array. And I'm mentioning a step of 2. So that means that Firefox, Chrome, Safari here, Safari, Chrome, Firefox, these are highlighted here, right, in this part. Let's print visitors and see if our logic was correct. Oops. Okay, yeah, here it is. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so I think we have successfully got our original data again. So we have Firefox. So this corrupted has been replaced by the one before it. That's Firefox. This one here is replaced by Chrome. This one here with Safari. This one again with Safari. This one with Chrome. And the last one with Firefox. Yes. So, okay. So I hope everyone understood that. I'll spend a minute here if anybody needs have any doubts in this example or anything like the previous one or something, you can post it in chat or Q&A. Just give me a B, if you're good to go. Like if it's okay. Will recording/answers be shared? Yeah, definitely. The recording will be shared on the YouTube channel of WB Code, and this Google Colab link will also be shared in the Slack channel. Yes. Just to clear it, the first one, this refers to this starting of the index. Yes, yeah. Exactly. So this one we are referring to all the corrupted ones. So the corrupted ones start at index 1 and at end, and it's they are like present on every second step. So these is the corrupted ones. This is highlighting the ones we need to replace them with. I think it still works with this. Okay, great. So that's all for the collab session. Let's get back to the slides. Okay, so we are almost at the end of our session today. Hope you enjoyed it. Okay, so we will be spending some time here on Q&A. If you have any general Q&As about Python one-liners or any specific ones in any of the examples I described earlier, feel free to write in chat. Yeah, definitely. It feels like you are realizing the true powers of Python when using one-liner Python. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Karen. Thank you. Okay, so I guess we have some, so we have some time for questions. If anybody, has any doubts, just feel free to let me know. I'll be happy to help. Thank you so much. So I guess there are not many doubts left. I hope the session was fun. Everybody enjoyed it. I enjoyed it completely while teaching. I hope everyone enjoyed while learning too. And it wasn't, okay. Okay, is it possible to sort two lists by one-liners? Yeah, we could definitely try that. It would reduce at least few lines, if not in a single line, but it will reduce definitely many lines. So, we need to kind of try that once. You can also post, questions and doubts on the Slack channel, and anybody from our team would be happy to help. There's one question, Q&A box. I didn't see any questions in the Q&A. Yes, please join our Slack channel, I guess. Okay, so just a heads up on what's coming up in the series. So we have an intermediate session 1 planned on 9th of November at the same time. So that's Tuesday, 12 a.m. EST. Intermediate session 2, we have on 16th of November, 12 a.m. EST, same time, same day. And we have an advanced session planned on 30th of November again, 12 a.m. EST. So hope to see you guys there. We'll have lots of fun, lots of more examples to cover. This was just the starting. Hope you guys, had fun today, and there will be very informative sessions, the ones we have planned. And yes, thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much, Karen and Stephanie, for helping me out here in today's session.